friends. Do you know what today is? It's Wednesday. That means it's Intuitive Eating Wisdom Wednesday, where I come in each week and drop some intuitive eating wisdom for you. And today's topic is really, really important. If you noticed in the feed, I had asked a question around food fears. So I'm just gonna tag everyone and make sure everybody gets here to join me live. So just give me a moment to see if I can do that. Yeah, actually, it's always quite difficult to figure out the tagging. So I'm actually not going to do that. I'm going to hope that people see the notification, and then later we'll deal with that. So if you're here with me live, always come say hello. If you are on replay, hashtag replay. If you happen to be watching this on YouTube or some other platform other than Facebook group, then I'm live streaming currently into my Facebook group called Intuitive Eating for a Diet-Free Life, and you've got to get yourself over there. So just you can just kind of go to intuitiveeatinggroup.com, and it'll take you right to this Facebook group, and you can join us for support. We are in this group working to cultivate a healthy relationship with food and your body. And I am Bonnie Giller. I am the host of this group, this weekly live stream, and I help women stop dieting and regain trust with food so eating is easy, it's enjoyable, and it is nourishing to your body and your mind. I've got a intuitive eating coaching program to help those who are ready to go deeper on their journey and to, in fact, really peel back those layers and get that intuitive eating ability that you were born with, which is buried under all those years of dieting, and bring that back up to the surface. So in any event, that's who I am, and today we are here to talk about food fears. So I will start out with a question. Do you have food fears? If you've been a dieter, now again, that means you could be dieting for a year. It could be 5 years, it could be 50 years, anywhere in between or even longer, because many of my clients are even longer than that, like multiple decades. Then it's quite possible you have developed some form of fear around certain foods and or certain anxieties around food. So if you are here live or on replay, absolutely share what are some of your food fears. Where do you think those food fears have come from? And I'm going to work through that with you today. So let's talk about fear in general. Fear is an emotion that we all feel when we're placed in a situation that in fact feels unsafe, right? It's an instinct for survival to save us from danger. So the question we really need to ask is, why does it show up around food? That is the question that I really want you to give thought to. I want you to really think about that, right? If you've been influenced by the diet culture we live in, then you've most likely heard of or experienced this some form of fear or anxiety around food. So let me know in the comments about your personal experience. Because in the world of dieting, food can shift from being viewed as something that keeps us healthy and well and happy and satisfied to being associated with danger. From fear of what? Weight gain. Or perhaps health changes, right? So fear around food usually develops when food is viewed as quote unquote bad. I use air quotes because those with a diet mentality and those who are sucked in diet culture will label foods good and bad, right? And so that's where this fear of food is developing from. It's from viewing food as quote unquote bad and something that is going to cause you to lose control or, again, gain weight. Now, generally, these foods have been deemed, quote unquote, unhealthy in the world of diet culture. Foods that might have higher calories, foods that might have higher sugar or higher fat or higher sodium, foods with many ingredients in them, right? While foods that trigger a sense of fear for long-term dieters are usually foods that are viewed as having no nutritional value or not being nutritionally dense, or just being quote-unquote unhealthy. They can also be any food that brings somebody any form of anxiety about how it's going to impact their weight, their body, their shape, their form, a fluctuation, a change in physical appearance, or even a change in their health. So, recognizing a fear around food is taking note of when you're around a particular food, you're exposed to a particular food that causes any such anxiety for you. Example, maybe you have to cancel dinner plans because the thought of eating food prepared by somebody else is scary for you because you do not know how that food is being prepared, whether that's in a restaurant or that's in someone's home, right? Because you're not in control of the ingredients that are being used. An increase in anxiety around food can also have you constantly obsessing over it and deciding what you can and can't eat and when you're quote unquote allowed to eat and so forth. Keeping foods in your house may also cause feelings of distress and have you thinking to yourself, I can't buy these fill in the blank cookies, for example, or this ice cream or this whatever your foods are that you don't trust yourself with, because I won't be able to quote unquote control myself. I'll eat the entire thing in one sitting. And so that brings up fear, brings up anxiety around being exposed to those foods. So in order to overcome or to get over any fear, it is very important to recognize why they've developed in the first place. Let's put some rational thought into it, because a lot of the fears we have around food are in fact irrational thoughts. They're cognitive distortions born from diet culture and all the rules that have been thrown at you. Food is just food. It keeps us alive, it keeps us healthy and well and happy because food tastes good. So why is it so scary? That's the question. There are many, many things that you may do on a daily basis when you begin dieting, or you're kind of in the latest diet that you're following, that can affect your relationship with food and how you view it. So let's look at some of those things. Still living with a diet mentality. Now, you may say, well, I'm in this group and I've given up dieting. But in fact, the diet mentality is so sneaky, it can show up in ways that you're not even aware of. So thinking that you have to follow a perfect diet can certainly create food fears and fears around many different foods. And you may say to yourself, you may have some inner dialogue that sounds like, I've been doing so good today and eating really quote unquote clean. And if I keep all this quote unquote junk out of the house that I used to eat before, I will have the perfect body in no time. Well, this is you still sitting with a diet mentality, and not only is trying to follow a strict diet restricting you from enjoying foods you might have loved once and still love but do not allow yourself to eat, it is creating major fear around them, and it's removing a very important concept, that is flexibility. Flexibility in your living, in your social gatherings, in just spontaneous events that might include food and so forth. The diet mentality runs deep. Now, we have lots of new people who have joined our group. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And I've read the answers to your questions. Thank you so much for completing them. It helps me to know where you stand. And so many of you wonderful women have shared that you've been yo-yo dieting and that you don't trust yourself with food and that you lose control and you're binge eating, right? And so just so you fully understand that this is the diet mentality. It's the very first thing that we need to work on shifting out of. Holding on to food rules is another reason why you're having this fear and anxiety around food. And that is part of the diet mentality. Labeling food as quote unquote good and bad, healthy, unhealthy. When you begin allowing yourself to only eat foods that are deemed good by society, naturally your brain is going to start to turn away from the foods that you've convinced yourself are quote unquote bad, and they cause fear for you. Constantly referring to your own way of eating or dieting, because watch the language, right? So many diets out there are going to say it's just a way of life, it's a way of eating, it's an eating pattern. But unfortunately, it can be under the guise of still being a diet, right? And so referring to eating as a way as being healthy or unhealthy, and you have to eat clean, you have to eat good, you have to eat perfect, is really, it's part of what we have to shift away from, right? We have to shift away from it. Thinking about foods as being harmful to you is definitely going to cause a lot of anxiety. And the question is, where does that come from for you? Where did that story begin? Dig deep for yourself, right? Where did that story begin? Did it begin with your first diet that you went on? Did it begin with a message you received even as far back as childhood, right? The truth is, food is neutral. This is what we're trying to do when we work through the intuitive eating process. We work to neutralize all foods. Food does not have moral value. But these distorted ideas about nutritional information in foods created by diet culture tells you otherwise. So you may say, so many times when I start working with clients, it's like, well, carbs are bad. I stay away from carbs. Well, no, carbs are not bad. We do not want to eliminate carbs from our eating because they are the main energy source, the preferred source of fuel for our body. So, next point I want to bring to your attention is your environment. How does your environment add to the food fears? Oftentimes, comments from people that are around us, could be friends, it could be family members, it could be relatives, right? It could be co-workers, it could be acquaintances, it could be doctors, anybody who comments, number one, on your body or what's on your plate, what you're eating, what you're not eating, or how much. It could really lead you to believe maybe I shouldn't be eating this. Maybe I'm bad because I'm eating this bad food, right? So fear of foods can develop, and anxieties around food can develop when the people around you are always telling you what you should or should not be eating, which is all based on the rules of diet culture, correct? And it's actually making you think it's true. It's like brainwashing you, right? It's like new pathways in the brain have been set down, and our work, what do we really need to do? We need to change those pathways. Next is poor body image. Body dysmorphia, where a person has a preoccupation with a perceived flaw in their physical appearance, can absolutely alter the way you view and look at food. So when you think a certain way about your physical appearance, or you're struggling with this concept of body dysmorphia, it's going to cause you to already feel some negativity towards your foods, right? And the idea of, oh, this is going to change my appearance even more. And there's so much fear wrapped up in that. So much fear wrapped up in that. Poor body image usually stems from trying to follow the beauty standards, to meet the beauty standards set out by society, and from negative comments from people around you about your appearance, about others' appearances, and it's extremely destructive. Extremely destructive. When you begin to pick up on these small habits or big habits or thoughts that create the fear that you have around certain foods, right? You actually begin to become fearful of a lot more things. And so again, how does it impact your life? It trickles into other areas of your life. Again, I'll go back. Maybe you had a date with friends, but you're going to cancel because there's too much fear and anxiety about going out to that particular restaurant or eating at somebody's house. It's just too scary for you. Maybe you're going to turn down, the holidays are coming, you're going to turn down a holiday meal, you're going to turn down other social invitations, right? Because being having exposure to foods that have been, fear foods for you, again, deemed by diet culture as forbidden, as bad, as unhealthy, you don't trust yourself in those situations because of all this fear. Why would you want to give up all of these things and activities and experiences of life when what we can really work on is changing how you look at food, right? Is it really worth it? So many of my clients come to me because they're just at their wits' end. They're just done with being so afraid of food and letting food take over every aspect of their life. What could you do? What experiences could you have in your life if you really learn to have food be a non-issue, to eat it, to enjoy it, to not be afraid of it? I really want you to think about that. Trust me, no diet is ever going to allow you to have peace between you and food. To really finally move away from this irrational feel of fear of food. Again, it is a cognitive distortion of diet culture. You really must understand the only way to do that is by doing the work. What is the work? The work is to finally commit to no longer dieting, to understand the damage dieting has caused you in your life, how it has interfered with so many aspects of your life, and to start dismantling all of the messages of diet culture to finally get back to your intuitive eating ability that you were born with. Being in tune with the signals of your body and trusting those signals and trusting these messages of your body. I know you can get there. I would love to help you. I would love to hear how this resonates with you today. Please leave some comments below on anything I've shared today. And if you want my help, sometimes we have to take a leap of faith. Sometimes we have to say, you know what? She's right. Why do I want to allow food fear to prevent me from limiting myself in my life? I'm here to help. If you want to learn more about how I could personally support you through this journey, please reach out to me. You can comment below. You can just hit me up in the DMs. So the DM is the direct messages. I will say that if we're not Facebook friends, it's possible you haven't yet seen the message I've sent you. I'm trying to send welcome messages to everybody so I can get to know you more. So check your other message, or what we call the message request folder. If you're not sure where that is, just make a comment below this video or somewhere in our group, tag me, and we'll figure that out together. Let's try to connect. I'm here to help. So food fear, releasing those food fears, understanding where it comes from. Where did your story begin with food fears? Let us know in the comments below so we can support you. All right, that's it for today's Intuitive Eating Wisdom Wednesday. I will look for your comments and see you back here again next Wednesday for another live stream. But chances are I'll pop in again to the group and do a surprise training here or there, and certainly daily posts. So if you want to get the most out of this group, then I would highly recommend checking into the group daily and reviewing past trainings, and as well as commenting on daily posts. Have a great Wednesday, everybody, and I will speak to you real soon.